Support Rainbow Soul. Check out the Rainbow Soul merchandise for your favorite new shirt. A variety of colors and styles to suit your taste. Show off your love for Rainbow Soul. Get cool designs with your favorite quotes. Designs come in a variety of colors so that you can express your most authentic self. Support Rainbow Soul in spreading the word that queer, gender variant, intersex, transgender is sacred. Rainbow Soul, putting the soul back into queer. Order your unique Rainbow Soul merchandise at rainbowsoul.show.
Welcome to Rainbow Soul, an explorative discussion about spirituality beyond mainstream religions. Hollis Taylor, author, psychic, astrologer, and alchemical mage, brings their non-binary perspective together with fellow drag king and trans man Lacrosse Ortiz, a Jewish Taino with spiritual background of exploration that has led him to an atheist perspective. Join these guys as they explore deep and difficult topics, all related to spirituality, offering a queer perspective, an exploration of interesting topics, and engaging guests to help explore conversations for the Rainbow Soul.
Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to
Hello.
Rainbow. Hey, Lacrosse is in from his job, and I just want to say this just shows commitment, right? So I just want to say to everybody out there, you know how it could be. You have a job, you ask them to always have off on this day, and of course they schedule you for that day eventually. And we've all been in that predicament. We've all had it, Lacrosse, man. You are not the only one.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of abusive, personally, and I know there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
Nope. But I mean, the good thing is I mean, at least I get to still be a part, and the job is flexible enough where I can still be a part and attend, even if I can't be seen. But
yeah, at least we can hear
yeah.
you, and we see your awesome like anime thing. I think Whitley probably did it. Did Whitley?
No, I actually had an artist do that for me.
Oh, did you? Nice, nice. I think it's really awesome. Just gonna say, that's your awesome drag king. So I'm Hollis Taylor. I'm one of the hosts of Rainbow Soul. I'm a non-binary witch. I'm a psychic. I'm a mentor and a coach. And medium, astrologer, and pretty much an all-around freak. And I'm the author of the book Divine Androgyny, which is a great book to have if you're transitioning in any way, like socially, emotionally, physically. I don't really define those because we didn't define those until after I wrote the book, but it does help you define your own path, because that's the thing. I think that all non-binary, all people, all gender variant people, queers of all kinds, we all have our own path, our own unique expression. So, and I like to work here with my buddy Lacrosse. So go ahead, Lacrosse. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Hello, my name is Lacrosse Ortiz. I am a Jewish atheist Taino. I am the host of Master of None, Jack of all trades, master of none, and that's basically who I am, trying to figure out my spiritual path and realize that there is not just one way to go about it. There are many. So that's me.
Yeah, there are definitely many paths, and I kind of like a mixture, but I like variety. Yeah, Gemini eighth house. That I love variety. That's, in my opinion, that's the spice of life. That's kind of my little thing. So I can't blame you on that, lacrosse. I'm a little bit like that myself. Um, so, and that's the thing about spirituality, it's a funny thing. Years ago, like I'm sure you can identify with this, at least the part of walking away from Christianity. Lacrosse, I walked away when I was a teenager. And eventually, years later, I made it to Wicca and paganism. And then I was flabbergasted to find out that some people had brought Christianity with them.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, like witches straight up would be doing. I was part of this place that used to have 2 moon services per month. And they would have anyone in the community could sign up to lead a moon service. Okay. And it didn't matter what your service was. And so they had me. I went to this one moon service that was a Quaker pagan ritual. It was Quaker and pagan. And they had
Wow.
all these benches in the circle where where we often had community ritual, which you can imagine is very more like Taino, with the
Right.
circle and elements and we had all that. We had all that. We had we even had the goddess, and she was known as Joan of Arc, and she represented literally the Joan of Arc from the Bible or something. And I don't really know the whole story or any, but she talked about that for a little while. And then we all sat quietly at a Quaker meeting during the ritual. Yes, that's what we did.
Awkward.
And
Very awkward.
a little strange. I was like, okay, and she said, if you feel something or hear something or something's really eagerly tapping on you to go ahead and stand up and say something. And a lot of people did. I'm just gonna say it might have been the crew, it might have been the crowd, a lot of witches, a lot of psychics, a lot of sensitive people all of a sudden are standing up. So I and having something to say. So I wondered if it differed that much from an actual Quaker meeting. And she said it usually is more active when she does pagan rituals. So
Wow. That's interesting. I only knew one Quaker, but from what I hear, there's not many left of Quakers.
yeah,
Like real practicing Quakers,
yeah, there's actually a Quaker house there in Harrisburg.
Yeah.
But and so sometimes when I'm so one of this artist that I found, first of all, I was attracted to their art. At first I was like, is this person like Centurion, or because of the Christian elements that seem to be imprinted in the art. And then I came to find out that this person. So I want to introduce you guys, because this is a very debatable topic and we'll talk about it, Kay. But I, of course, am fully in support of someone that is Wiccan and Christian. So I want to bring and an artist, and they're non-binary. So I want to bring Kay out because I said, well, that's a perfect fit for Rainbow Soul. Welcome, Kay.
Hey, thank you for having me.
And you have such awesome art too. I want to say that's what caught my eye, right? Because I just scrolled across this beautiful art and I was like, oh, interesting. And I was like, oh, who's making this? Oh, they're non-binary. Now you've got my attention. So I was super excited about that. So why don't you tell us who you are, Kay? Tell us about you.
Well, thank you very much. So my name is Kay. My pronouns are they, them. I'm originally from Chicago. I was raised very extreme Catholic. Went to only Catholic schools ever, although I had one semester at Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary. I didn't know that there were any other options. And when I say extremists, like I was told that that girls were allowed to go to school just to become housewives and to find good husbands. Like that was the extreme.
Oh
And the only
my.
time that girls were allowed to wear pants was in gym class. Otherwise, we had to wear skirts and dresses all the time because you have to be pretty to find a husband. Yeah, it was really extreme. I will say I went to a Jesuit high school. Jesuits are a kind of brand of Catholic, and they were a lot better. And then I went to a very, very trans-inclusive, all-women's college run by radical nuns in Milwaukee. They were
No way.
fantastic. I loved them. That's where I studied art therapy, and that really got me into spiritual art. Yeah. When I was in middle school, I discovered Wicca. It was the very silver raven wolf brand of Wicca that you would find at Borders. Yeah, Borders of the late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh yeah,
And
that's about where I was.
yes, yeah. Well, as soon as I found that there was a different option from Catholic, I converted right away. Like, of course, I'm going to do this. This is so much better. So, and that was also shortly before I discovered feminism. Like, I found a copy of The Feminine Mystique in my mother's basement when I was 16. And it's really weird. It's like she read it and decided to do the opposite of what the book said. But that book saved my life, and Wicca saved my life because I found other options. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Wicca is really powerful, can be really powerful, especially when you don't use things to restrict you, like, so that's one of the things that I hope that you're comfortable addressing, is that, like, Wicca, when they're not cultural appropriating, so we have to try not to use the word smudge, try not to steal from the indigenous people.
Yeah. Yeah.
and and then and then also, if you could possibly take away the crazy feminists that happened, the feminist
You mean the
movement that happened.
TERFs?
Yeah, the turfs that started doing Wicca, and we're like, where did you guys come from?
Yeah.
Because just get out of here.
Mhm.
And then, of course, then there's just very cisgendered, very binary viewpoints of Wicca. Now, I did not always have that experience, because my introduction to Wicca was mostly with the Radical Fairies. But how
I
about
am familiar
you?
with
Like,
them.
you did the Silver Raven Wolf. Like, did you come across the crazy turfs? Did you?
I did. So I will say when I was very little, I wouldn't say that I considered myself to be androgynous because I didn't know that word. Like, I was 4, 5, 6 years old. But whenever I saw characters who I perceived to be a different gender, like Gonzo or Big Bird or Gumby or the Brave Little Toaster, although I will say in the novella that the movie Brave Little Toaster is based on, they are canonically agender. They do talk about having no gender. So there we go. We do have actual non-binary fictional characters. I didn't know that as a kid. I just thought they were. And I took comfort in seeing them like, okay, there's another option. This is great. But then I just got so indoctrinated into this horrible, toxic femininity where I had to find a husband. And that was just my whole life until I discovered Wicca and feminism. And I was still within the framework of white cis femininity, but I really just went from one extreme to the other. And I did come across turf feminism, turf Wicca, the Dianic Wiccans, and I hadn't met any trans people, so I didn't really know what that was. But even then, I was like, well, this is a silly reason to exclude someone. Like, if people want to get together and celebrate the sacredness of menstruation, menopause, pregnancy, birth, wombs, that's great. And if people want to get together to celebrate womanhood and femininity, that's great. These don't have to be happening at the same time. We can spread this out.
Yeah. I had a very similar experience when I was introduced to um, some rather feminist Wiccan women
Mhm.
who were essentially turfs.
Yeah.
Um, I just didn't know. I didn't have a name for it at the time. There wasn't really a name for people like that in the 90s. Um, but I knew that there was something wrong with them,
Yeah.
because I knew some transgender people. I had met, actually, that's where I met more transgender people, was in the Wicca community at the Radical Fairies. Particularly had numerous people in their circle that were transgender, and I still know them to this day, and I'm very grateful. And one of them, she turned out to be like a really good friend over the years, and we're still friends. So, I just feel like there's an idea out there in the non-binary community that Wicca is all TERFs and all haters, and that's not true. And it's not all cultural appropriation. We definitely pull from where white people come from, which would be like Ireland, and Europe, and the Ukraine, right? And so that's where we're pulling these traditions from. So I wouldn't call that cultural appropriating, because as far as I can tell by looking at UK, you're a white person, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You may not know what part of Europe you're from, but
I do know. We're
okay.
very Norwegian.
Right.
Yeah.
So and I'm very aware of my privilege as a white person, and I'm also aware that lacrosse might be treated differently if he was arrested, even if I was the one doing something wrong.
Yeah.
I'm very fully aware of that.
Yeah.
And I'm also fully aware that lacrosse also has a background in Taino, and that their culture, because they look at the elements, resembles the Wiccan traditions that we all hold. And so as a result, I see that I see that how people are getting there, but I think also the Slavic people, also the ancient the Irish people before they were Christian, they definitely practice the 4 elements and all of that stuff too. And like Lacrosse always says, we're all indigenous to somewhere, right, Lacrosse?
Yep. I think there's like a basic core people who are connected to the earth, indigenous people, like I said, no matter where they're from. There is a basic core pattern, and it's the respect for the earth, the respect for nature, and the elements and the stars. And I think there is a common denominator with all indigenous people, no matter what part of the world they're from.
Right. And so I agree. There seems to be some sort of similarities no matter what culture you look at. There also is a similarity even in Christianity. I don't know if you know about it, Kay, but that there are stories and stuff that resemble transgender people, that this is not a fad. Like, this has been going on for a long time. Do you have any stories from Christianity, Kay, about that? I know there are some in the Bible.
Oh, there sure are. So I do want to say that the terms that we use now are the terms that we use now. They're very new terms. We can't really apply them to people who lived thousands and thousands of years ago. But it can be said that if non-binary is an adjective, people in the Bible fulfilled non-binary roles. Eunuchs are discussed several times throughout the Bible. Now, I will say there are some parts where it's like, oh, eunuchs are bad. They can't actually be Jewish. They can't own land. They can't get married. They can't pass their name on. These are all male things. These are the things that men did. And then also in the book of Isaiah, eunuchs are blessed. And then in the book of Matthew, Jesus himself blesses eunuchs. And he does say some become eunuchs through the acts of man, which usually involves some kind of violence. And he also said people who are born eunuchs or choose to become eunuchs. And it's not clear what that means. What we do know is these are people who, again, did not own land, did not get married. They were usually not enslaved, which was a different class and could be said a different gender. And they fulfilled very gendered roles that were not man roles and not women roles. And then in the book of the Acts of the Apostles, Philip blesses an Ethiopian eunuch. This was a foreigner who had been Jewish and could not enter the temple because the eunuch was not a man. Again, not able to fill that man role, not able to fill the woman role. So every time eunuchs are mentioned in the Bible, these are non-binary people. And they have been blessed 3 times in the Bible, including by Jesus himself.
Right. See, that's what I'm talking about right there, friends. So if you have heard, if you're sitting at home and you're watching this, whether you have told somebody or you have heard that being non-binary is a sin or wrong or not natural or whatever you've heard is bullshit, there again, here's another set of proof, if you needed more, that shows that in our history, people that are gender bending in a variety of ways have been real and are just as important as everyone else. We just serve a different role. We do things a little differently. That's pretty much all there is to say about that.
Mhm.
And so I just think it's beautiful. I love to, focus on gender variant topics because that's really important. And I also think spirituality is really important. And so I was looking at some of your art and I have the pictures, but let me upload them real quick. But why don't you tell us a little bit like when your process of making a piece of art, what kind of work are you doing for yourself or the world? What are you trying to bring forth?
Sure. So I will say for those who haven't seen or are not seeing, I do work primarily in textiles. So a little bit more backstory. When I was in college, I was still very passionate about Wicca, very, very goddess centric, solitary Wicca. I was not into Gardnerianism or Alexandrianism. It was still very eclectic, very unfortunately Silver Ravenwolf based. I did get better, I promise. But my local community was not very social justice focused. Like when I was in high school, there was a girl my age in either Kentucky or Tennessee who bullying and suicide mention. She was bullied to the point where she did commit suicide. And Wicca was not covered under anti-discrimination laws in that state at that time. And a lot of Wiccans got together to get that on the books, and they succeeded in that. And they also managed to get Wiccan chaplains in the military and in prisons, and also to allow Wiccan funerals for military service people and for people who are incarcerated. And the Wiccans I knew, after they accomplished all those things, they said, okay, we're done. There's nothing more we have to do. No more social justice. This is it. We can all go home. And I was like, no, there's a lot more to do. It doesn't even have to be Wicca focused. Like, we could work on fair housing, for example. We could work on access to food and water. Like, it doesn't have to be Wicca stuff. And they said, no, we're done. And I was so upset that I left. I was done with Wicca because I wanted it to be social justice. Like, I think that's a large part of spirituality, at least for me, to try to make the world a better place because we're all equal. It's not just me sitting at home on the couch, it's everybody. And largely thanks to those radical nuns, I came to learn about social justice within Catholicism, specifically Catholic feminism and the women's ordination movement. So my work usually has some image of Mary that can also be interpreted as a goddess image. And for a long time, this was very healing for me. It was very healing because I haven't had a loving motherly figure in real life. So Mary's it. Mary is where I've gotten that loving maternal love that I think we all need. And it's also a way for me to keep focusing on that feminism, to get away from what I was raised with, to kind of show myself and to show others there's a better option, that there is power in femininity, that there is power in womanhood, that there is power in the experiences of those who are perceived as women, which is also a very different group of people. So when I create artwork, it is a combination of trying to express the motherly love that I crave and that I try to reach through spiritual means, and also to to balance out all the patriarchy that's within Christianity.
Yeah, that seems to be a theme amongst many people I noticed today. I noticed more and more and more as we go forward that more and more people are deconstructing Christianity.
Yep.
And frankly, I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
And that feminism, my non-binary identity is based in feminism. In other words, if we were to do away with the binary and not have it be an influence anymore, we would greatly reduce sexual assault on women. So,
All women.
yeah, across the board, because we create a rape culture by having gender to some degree, by separating at birth, by saying that someone has breasts, then they are a woman. And then by doing that, we classify them in a weaker role and blah, 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 blah. Like it just goes on and on. And that's the problem with gender. And so that's the part of me that always wants to yell at those radical feminist turfs. I'm always like, we're doing this for you too, you goof. But they're not, I don't know, woke or whatever. I don't know what it is. They don't see it that way. So, but I like the feminist because I am also a pretty strong feminist myself. And I think Lacrosse also is a pretty strong feminist. He's definitely, like he's into, what do you say about trans men, Lacrosse?
I call us the X-Men, and we're like the next evolved, in the binary, we're the next evolution because we can identify we're the bridge between both genders. So in being a trans man, I like it's beneficial for my wife because I can identify on so many levels with her. And if she's going through a cycle, instead of being like that person, like, period, I'm more like, okay, honey, what can I do for you? Because I understand you're going through this and that, and it just, being a mother, it just helps me connect with her better on that, being a mother myself. So I think it just helps us bridge the gap between both. And that's a gift that we're given to the world, so when I see men who act like idiots, I'll be the first to call them out.
Thank you.
Super important.
Well, I can't be the next evolved man if I act like them. I just can't. It's no.
And a lot of trans men have talked about this, how they're a different kind of man. And even people that date trans men will usually say, yeah, trans men are different kind of man, special kind of man. And they'll say that. They have some, and I can see what the qualities are. I can see that from a woman's perspective. I can see that, that she would be like, oh yeah, being with a person that's a trans person, a trans man helps them feel more loved or something, helps them feel more seen, I think, in a way they probably haven't been seen, probably in a way that none of us have been seen since we all get a monthly cycle, or whatever. A cycle might not be monthly, but anyway, I want to look at your first art, this one art piece. I'm going to put it up on the screen. I think this is the first one I've seen, and that's exactly what I thought when I looked at it. I was like, it looks like Mary, Mother of Goddess. And I noticed that they were both people of color, which I kind of appreciated. And appreciated that we had, Jesus and Mary of color, and the rainbows, of course. The rainbows speak to me. If there's a rainbow, I probably love it. So anyway, do you remember making this piece?
Oh, I sure do.
Mm-hmm.
So this picture is actually two different ones. There's the hanging quilt with the Mother Mary with the rainbow. And with that one, honestly, I just took all of my rainbow fabric and my black fabric, and I just played. This was just a playful piece. And then below that, so I have a 3D printer, and you asked me about queer figures in the Bible, and you're going to get a big one. Can you think of someone in the New Testament who does not own land, who's not married, who does not pass a name down to anyone?
No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't. I'm not
Jesus.
good.
I'm talking
Jesus.
about Jesus.
Oh, that
the big
guy.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the story of Jesus going into the tomb and resurrecting and coming out and being a very different person, that resonates with a lot of people who transition. That is a transition story. So I 3D printed Jesus as a butterfly because, I mean, it's a butterfly story. And behind Jesus is the trans flag made out of fabric.
I can see that now. I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, I see the trans colors, the blue and the pink.
And the white
Because
behind him, yeah.
because you're kind of saying that Jesus, I call him Jesus because I have a belief system about names. But Jesus, he that he somehow transformed like a transgender person would.
Yep, exactly.
When he supposedly died, right?
Yeah. Yep. There's a Swedish photographer named, I'm going to look it up, Elizabeth Olsen Wallen. And yeah, Elizabeth Olsen Wallen. And she had a photography series in the late 80s and the early 90s that involves Jesus as a transgender man. Like there's a famous Renaissance painting of the Apostle Thomas putting his finger into the wounds of the risen Jesus. Well, Elizabeth took a picture that resembles that painting very closely, except they're all Swedish. And instead of a wound, it's a top surgery scar.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a totally different way to think of Jesus, eh? All right. Here's another image. I thought this was interesting. I was like, is that the gender binary staring at each other? And then I was like, oh, maybe it's uh, uh, like this, a rebus like this, which is, a two-headed, half man, half woman type of character. But why don't you tell us about what it is?
Okay, so this is another Bible story that I have chosen to queer. So there's the story of the wedding at Cana. And it's this story where Jesus and his mother Mary go to a wedding at a city called Cana. And that's the one where they run out of wine and Jesus turns the water into wine. And that's supposed to be his first miracle. And a lot of people over centuries have chosen to interpret the story of the wedding at Cana to be a metaphor for Jesus marrying the church, for God marrying the Christians, for patriarchal God marrying feminine earth. Like there are many different interpretations of this story. Also, a big one is Jesus with Mary Magdalene. So there was a radical nun named Sister Corita Kent. She did discern out, so she wasn't a nun for the last part of her life. But she was a famous artist throughout the 60s, and she created just these beautiful screen prints of the wedding at Cana. That was the first time I ever thought the images were really that interesting, because she was just so into 60s pop art. And I wanted to recreate one of her screen prints of the wedding at Cana in textiles, but I didn't want it to be someone who's easily read as a man and a woman. So I tried to make it look like two women getting married at the wedding at Cana. And then there's
Okay.
the Holy Spirit right below them, and all these people gathered around them drinking wine at the wedding.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well done. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Well done.
That's funny. It just kind of reminds me of the Bible story of David and Jonathan, and how they said they had a love like no other, and everybody looks at that and think that it's this like platonic type relationship, and
Nope.
it really wasn't. It was a very intense, deep love they had.
Yeah.
And yeah, it goes to say interpretation is everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I want to read Eve's message here. You talk about agender fictional characters. I always considered Mr. Potato Head to be both because it came in with accessories that could present either way or totally different entirely, as noses fit in ear slots and hat slots and vice versa. And the potato head had no genitalia. So when people got upset that we developed some non-binary potato characters, I was befuddled because the original was just plastic pieces inserted into a vegetable potato.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. I love Mr. Potato Head.
Mm-hmm.
I know somebody that had Mr. Potato Head on his altar, so you know.
That's great.
But that's the radical fairies for you. So yeah, I'm really I'm really interested in the way that you create the textiles on top of each other. Here's another one. I was wondering about this picture because it has the goddess in the middle with the labyrinth belly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm familiar with that, as well as the turtle with the markings on his back. I've seen those images before, usually in Wiccan, pagan, witchcraft type stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
then you had down here a little goddess, and I think when I seen this, I started wondering if like, and it does kind of look like Mary, or I'm not sure what the goddess is down here on the right a little bit. But that's when I started wondering if it was Santeria or something like that. Are you familiar with Afro-Caribbean paths?
I am, and I'm also really white. So
I understand. I totally get
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I totally get it. But
Mm-hmm.
that this is the kind of thing they do sometimes. So can
Mm-hmm.
you tell me a little bit about this piece for you though?
Absolutely. So part of my gender journey, so up until April of 2021, I was working for the Roman Catholic Church in Texas. And even though my coworkers and my boss were very supportive of me personally, uh, the bishop really did not like us. We were, can I swear?
Yeah.
We were on the shit list. Yeah, because we were the most radical, which we weren't. Um, and I was told privately in a very respectful way, please don't be public about being non-binary and queer because we don't want to give the bishop another reason to hate us and kick us out because he would. And because we did so much work to help people get food, pay rent, get neonatal vitamins, get diapers. It's like, yeah, we need to keep doing this because the bishop sure isn't doing this. So I chose to just kind of keep things quiet for the 5 years that I worked there. And I will say that I really enjoyed that job. I loved my coworkers. We did a lot of really good work. And also, I've gotten to be so much freer since leaving because I can finally be out. I can finally talk about queer stuff. I can finally reach out to other people. I can do stuff like this.
You could be on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
So
Right.
now that I'm, full time, like this is it, I'm here, I don't have to be in the closet anymore. Uh, a lot of this imagery that I'm working on is starting to shift. So it before I could really explore my gender and what this means and what it looks like, I was going to maternal images largely to seek out that maternal love that I have not gotten from a human being. And now that I'm shifting, I see mother as a term as more of a verb. So instead of mother goddess, it's mothering spirit. Instead of Mother Mary, it's mothering Mary. And I could go into the name Mary, but we'll be here for hours.
Right.
So when
Yeah,
I
for sure.
created the spiral goddess figure, I consider that to be a verbal piece. Like this is not a woman figure. This is not strictly a feminine figure. This is the act of creation.
Would you call that the mother? I call her the mother goddess, that image.
The mothering.
Yeah. Like she kind of like that symbol represents mothering, maybe because of the spiral in the whole womb,
Exactly.
ovary area,
Mhm.
which is a real thing, you know, to create life. And we all have a mother, and some of us have been mothers, and yeah, it's hard when your actual mother sucks.
Yeah.
And I also found a similar thing in witchcraft, except for me, it's just the Mother Earth, period. That's
Yep.
my mother. So at any time, I could just walk outside, whether I'm in the desert or in the rainforest, doesn't matter because it's always Mother Earth.
Mhm.
And I just trees and rocks and things like that. So you can heal mother wounds. Anyone that ever says you can't.
It can take a long time and you have to get creative, but it can happen.
Yoga helps.
Mhm.
And prayer,
I really
meditation.
appreciate your point. I really appreciate your point on using mothering as a verb. In other words, not so much as a gender, only because I have 6
Mhm.
children. And even though I'm a man, they still call me mom. I'm mama,
Mhm.
you know, and when we're public, it always throws people off because here I am, you know, this typical Latino looking guy. And the first thing I do is like, they're like, mom, I'm like, yeah. And they look at me and I'm like, don't put gender roles on parenting.
Yes, exactly.
There's no gender roles in parenting. It's I'm their mother and that's it.
Mhm.
But I really appreciate using that as a verb. And as far as like having the negative, like I had a bad mom myself. Did the best she could with what she could, but I realized that it was her who taught me how to be a parent. And it wasn't what she taught me what to do, it's what she taught me what not to do. And so instead of taking that, and that's what helped heal that trauma, was realizing is when I had my own, flipping it and saying, okay, I'm just going to do complete opposite. Not saying it's going to be perfect, but I'll do the complete opposite. And that will bring healing to me and healing to that next generation that I
Mhm.
brought into this world.
Absolutely. That's exactly how I went about it too, Cross. When I had a kid, I was 17. I was like, my mom sucks really bad. So let me just do everything opposite of what she did. Now I'll probably get most of it right.
Either that or I end up with a whole new set of mistakes I made. I don't know. I hope not.
I know. I'm totally there with you, Lacrosse. But my son validates it often. He always comes back to me and says, "You are an excellent mom. Thank you so much." He corrects his grandchild and tells his child that I'm non-binary, and respects that. And he's never really had that big of a deal with it, of course, because he's a millennial, I don't know, but just a guess.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you know, he's 29 and he honors me as a mother, and I'm okay with him calling me mom because I do also see it as a verb. And I
Mhm.
think it's because of the Wicca perspective. I think you get it from the witchcraft Wicca perspective. We also see fathering as nothing more than a verb.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
so mothering and fathering are both verbs, and represented in a variety of ways, in gods and goddesses. But then, of course, there are character or symbols, representations that are also in between. And I think Wicca covers that by when we start talking about deities that are both
Yes.
or neither. Ganesha is a great example. is seen as both, and that's an Indian goddess or Indian deity. Mercury is a Greek one, and they're also a planet in the universe. So if you follow astrology, you can also know that Mercury is non-binary, they. So, now this image, I thought was really good too. And of course, at this point, I realize you're probably not Santeria, but maybe Christian. So I think this is really cool, though. I like your textile. I like that you layer it like with fabrics and other, I don't know, stuff. Like I think that's kind of cool. I tend to like fairy art, fairy stuff, so it kind of gives it that fairy feel, and I like that part. I don't know if you've ever explored fairies, but maybe you should.
Oh, I looked into them a long time ago. So there was a very short time in my life when I was a prude. I got over it. And unfortunately, that was the time that I met the few fairies I have met in person. And they invited me to a nudist retreat. And at the time,
Radical
I
fairies.
was like,
Yeah.
oh no, this is so sinful. And now I'm like, I should have gone.
Yeah, that sounds like the radical fairies for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like the spiritual beings fairies. Like I actually believe in fairies. And that's why I go to like I've been to fairy festivals. And I actually do believe in fairies. Like I have a little bit of a fairy altar. I think Eve might even probably Eve, you probably are a fairy lover too. A lot of Wiccans and pagans will have a fairy altar or will make an offering to the fairies when they've lost a lot of stuff. They'll put a little like little lid of honey out somewhere, and most of us do have some of that, especially if you look at Irish lore, fairies come up. And so that's kind of like what I was talking about. So you might want to check it out sometime because your stuff, if you look at the art, you have these little bracelets up in the corner, right? And I assume they're like tied on or sewn on, sorry. And then you have like the little rainbow ball at the top and little jewels hanging off of it and stuff like that. And that's what gives it that fairy vibration. It gives it that vibe. And then I'm like, oh, but there's a mother goddess in the middle there. So so tell us about when you made this piece.
Well, this piece actually surprised me. Now, I did start out like this was mostly just a design piece. I didn't have an allegory or a story behind it. It really was just embroidery takes a long time. And this is an embroidery heavy piece. This was mostly just me meditating through embroidery. But
Teaching yourself the skill.
Yep, exactly. This one took a very long time, and I really enjoyed it because it cleared my mind, it helped the world melt away, and when I look at this piece, I feel a lot of personal growth through the months it took to do all that work. And yet, when it was done and I finally hung it up to look at it and take pictures of it, I realized this piece has black, purple, yellow, and white. The non-binary flag. I did not plan that. But I'm so happy that this piece just kind of played a trick on me and brought the non-binary flag colors into something that I spent a lot of time on.
Wow, your Saturn makes me want to look at your astrology chart over here. Me going, I wonder where your Saturn is. Because that's what I was thinking about as you were talking and describing this piece, is that your Saturn is in your chart shows us where you're consistent, where you consistently do things that help manifest something beautiful, hopefully. It's sort of like the part of you that's the foundation, right? And that's what you were making me think of, because you were like, I had to come back to it all the time. It took a long time. It was a lot of energy and a lot of focus, and that's exactly what Saturn is.
So I do have my charts saved on my phone for just
No
this
way.
situation, and my
Okay.
Saturn is in Scorpio.
Ah, yes, beautiful. So Scorpio is all about mystery and transformation, which is why the mystery came through when you were done, when you realized that, oh, look, this piece of art is even talking to me and telling me that the non-binary is okay, that I am loved, that I am okay, that I'm consistent. And that also builds trust, you see, coming back to it every day. Then you start to trust yourself that you'll come back to it again and finish it, you know? So like, that's kind of like building a trusting relationship, not only with the art and the energy of the art, but yourself, because you keep coming back. And that's really beautiful. And that's that's Saturn. Especially with Scorpio there. It's, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if it's in your 5th house.
I'm not sure of that one, but I will tell you I have a Scorpio moon as well.
Oh, okay. I'm a Scorpio rising. So, okay. Yeah. Scorpio moon just makes you creative with words, actually. Anyway, yeah. So that I really have enjoyed talking to you today, Kay. And I'm so glad that you post your artwork on non-binary places and try to give people inspiration and because I think it's really important. I think non-binary people, we need to see more of us. And we
Absolutely,
need
we
to
really
see us
do.
doing stuff.
Yeah, I've spent the past 16 years learning as much as I could about feminist theology and spirituality, specifically in Catholicism and in Wicca. And now that I'm out, I kind of want to just move on to non-binary theology and spirituality. And as of now, we don't have 16 years worth, but we got to make it. We're doing it right now.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of what this book is about. I definitely touch on different cultures and different places. Thanks for ordering a book.
Absolutely.
I'm excited for you to read it and hope that you'd be willing to give me a review. And if anyone out there needs a book, you don't have enough money, just send me a message and I'll get you a book. And I would ask for a review in exchange. So you will pay for it, but you'll just pay for it in energy instead. So you're not asking for donations. I'm just giving it to you. And so I just like to say that. And check this out. Eve says, absolutely, I have a fairy altar. Told you. And I give them their treats. Sometimes they try to get extra goodies, especially when they start getting restfully playful. Most modern day Wiccans, pagans, and witches believe in the fairies, especially the white ones, especially us white people. And I think it has something to do with our Irish heritage. Did they have fairies in Taino? Have you ever heard of fairies in Taino culture, Lacrosse?
No, I don't think so. Not that I can recall of.
Like elemental energies for the elements that are real teeny. No?
No, I honestly I don't know, but I haven't dug deep enough.
There are a couple of tribes that do, which is interesting.
I'm sure if I dig deeper, I'll find something.
Maybe, yeah. It's a very interesting little thing. Maybe someday we'll have the right person on to talk about it. Exactly. Maybe we'll get Orion talking about that. Hey, so we are coming to a close tonight, and I want to say that next week we are looking to do a special ritual online, and I'm looking for folks that are willing, interested to be on camera and take part in the ritual. It's written out for you. It doesn't take a whole lot of improv or anything like that. We write it out for you. I love it if you're in costume. So if anyone out there, or Kay, if you want to be involved, it's next week. We're going to do, hopefully, a Ukrainian ritual and pray for Ukraine. We're going to pray for peace in Ukraine. I think most of us could get on board with that. So we're going to have Bright Hawk with some music, and hopefully we'll have some other folks together to do the ritual next week. So we don't know if your boss is going to continue being a jerk or not, Lacrosse. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping not, but I should have my schedule Wednesday, and then I'll definitely be able to confirm.
Okay, thanks. And so I'm gonna shuffle my cards, and Kay, you should definitely shuffle yours.
I got mine.
I was just talking to Psychic Cindy. If for those of you that know her, I play a game with her on Sunday mornings, and she and I were talking about the meditative value of shuffling your cards. And if you're a tarot reader, never underestimate the power and the meditative power of shuffling your cards. And so I'm using the Pride deck. This is the Love is Love deck. This is a queer deck. Every single one of these cards is done by a different LGBTQIA artist. And it's a collaborative deck, which makes it fabulous automatically. And it's also gay. So therefore, it's second fabulous. It is as fabulous as you can get in cards. That will be on the vernal equinox. Yes, Eve. Next week, which is the 20th, which is the equinox, which is Ostara, right? So I'm actually thinking about the ritual that we're running, Eve, if you can be in it. Ostara is a celebration of like the early spring. And in Ukraine, there's this old ancient story about the village. And in the village, what would happen is a woman would get dressed up like a man and come out on a horseback and sort of like Pan, think like Pan, like Peter Pan, and come out and announce to the village that spring was here. And that was the official like announcement and blessing. And this is a old Ukrainian story. Urilo is the name of the god. I know, Eve. I know that you know the name of the holiday, Ostara. So it's that's what we'll be doing. So hopefully we can get one person willing to play the god and then the other people to play the directions. And we'll have Bright Hawk with her beautiful hand pan music, hopefully. And we'll just pray and send peace to that place on earth, which I think is the best use of our energy during this Ostara. So I hope that you guys can join us. Okay, Eve, that's fine with me because I wasn't sure how I was going to bring a horse in. If you want to do it, Eve, just send me a message. All right, so I'm going to pull out 3 cards. And these 3 cards, please be sure that you take what you like, leave the rest. Okay, it's probably not meant for you. And this first beautiful card is about taking in, remember the things that are special about your life. That's what this is about. Remember your blessings. Remember the gifts that you get in your life every day. From a really delicious cup of tea or coffee in the morning to a beautiful dinner at the end of the day, a peaceful day. Come on, we can all be grateful for peace in our lives, that we're not in the middle of a war zone, and that that you have gifts every day. So don't forget to be grateful for the things you do have, like that if you can walk, that you can walk, and that if you can talk, you can talk. If all of those things, if you can hear, be grateful that you can hear. So try to be grateful for those things, and be grateful for all the gifts you have. And this going forward is is about our spirituality. It's about what we do in our spirituality and how we represent our spirituality. This is the 10 of Wands, and this is about our wisdom comes through. This is the sage. This represents the sage. For the pagans out there, which is that know what a sage is, it's a wise old man. And that's exactly what this is. This is a reminder of our own wisdom, our own connection to the divine. I don't care who told you what. I'm telling you, and I think Kay and Lacrosse would back me up on this, that you, no matter who you are, no matter what your identity is, no matter what you have done in the world, you have a direct connection to the divine. You have a unique, direct connection to the divine. And that's what this is meant to remind you of. That's what this is all about. So just take a moment to take it in and really celebrate it. That's what this is all about, your wisdom. And interestingly, going forward, we need to celebrate community. Get involved. And this is also meant to say, get involved in your local pride. Find something to do. Go perform as a drag person, volunteer, pick up trash, go set up, go hang balloons, hang flags, hand out flags, whatever it is, go get involved. Be part of your community. Be part of the community around you. Reach out to your local witches, reach out to your local community. You'd be surprised what's going on in your community. Just look around. They're waiting for you. And that's what this is all about. It's all about connecting with people we love and finding the loves we need in our life. And so also, if you're in a relationship where you're not sure if there's going to be a commitment coming forward, if you're not already in a committed relationship, if you're not in one yet, you might could start falling into your life. If you're already in a committed relationship, don't be surprised if the commitment goes a little bit deeper in the next couple of days. This reading is for like the next week. So that's what you want to be thinking about this week. Count your blessings, count your treats, count the ice cream cones that you get. Okay. And if you have an ice cream cone, just be double thank you, because I can't always have ice cream. And anyway, and then here's your wisdom, right? This is your wisdom. And so celebrate your wisdom of who you are today. Celebrate the wisdom that you've downloaded today. And as you're going forward, be sure to celebrate connections with others, especially in community and especially in love relationships. So connect and celebrate those. All right. Thank you very much. Take what you like, leave the rest. So
I have pulled a card. Would you like me to add that?
Yeah, go ahead. Add your cards. Mm-hmm.
All right. So I have the Tarot of the Four Elements. This is a very artistically expressive and colorful deck. Now, I will say before anybody goes to Google it, it is an adult deck. This is 18 plus. So anybody under that, stay away from Google. So I did pull 3 cards, and they go together, and I think it really resonates with what we were talking about with mothering as a verb. So I have the High Priestess, and then the Queen of Water, which is akin to the Queen of Cups, and then the One of Water, which is akin to the One of Cups. And since the cups are relationships, I see this as being offered to enter into a loving motherly relationship with the divine, specifically with that High Priestess card.
Nice. So an invitation to explore the divine feminine, which comes through a lot.
Or the divine mothering, whatever that looks like to you.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. I love it. And I love you guys. There's lots of different ways to do that. There are red tents that accept trans people. If you don't know where they are, I'll show you. Yep, exactly. There are like all kinds of things, like if you're looking to get involved with Wicca or witchcraft and you just want it to be less, you want to avoid the turfs, you want to avoid the, cultural appropriation, That's possible. You could do it. So we could show you how. I could steer you in the right direction. So I've enjoyed the show tonight. Thank you, Kay. I think you did a great job. Awesome. I love your art. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here. I think your textile stuff is totally awesome. I think you should keep doing it. I think
Thank you
it's
very much. I
fabulous.
plan to.
Oh yeah, it's
Makes a-
definitely beautiful.
Thank
Beautiful
you.
artwork.
Yeah, and it's really special, and we appreciate you. We appreciate that you're here. We appreciate you putting time and energy into sharing, and we appreciate, just the time and energy it took to do the show today. And we hope that people will come and visit your website. Can they connect with you there? You're on most social media, right?
Yeah, my website, kriesel.com, KKRIESEL.com. It does have all my social media on there, Facebook, Instagram, Etsy, TikTok, all of that. So that is the way to get in touch with me and also to see more of my art.
Okay, and the other thing I wanted to just mention real quick is, don't you do ceremony? Don't you marry people and stuff?
Yes, I am officially ordained through the Universal Life Church. I'm also, my day job is I'm a hospice chaplain. I've officiated a few funerals, and I also do weddings, transition ceremonies. You know, I think that we as a society, as a species, as a community, do a lot better when we acknowledge our life changes with ritual. I think the fact that all these different cultures and communities around the world, as far back as we know, have had ritual, it says a lot about who we are and how we process things. And I want to help facilitate whatever kind of ceremony is needed to go through a life change. So I do have information about those services on my website as well.
I think it's important. I had a turning of age ceremony for my son when he became 13, and I plan to have a ceremony for myself once I'm fully menopausal.
Yep.
And things like that. So yeah, ceremonies are an important way to like mark your life, friends. You should definitely do it. Yeah. Lacrosse, you've been through a few ceremonies too for yourself, right?
Oh yeah. We've had we have ceremonies. Like I know in the Taino culture we have ceremonies for just about everything.
Exactly. And I think it's important. I agree with you, Kay, that our culture needs to focus more on that. So I appreciate your input about that, and I wanted to make sure we touched on it. So anyway, and I think that's it for tonight, friends. I also want to thank you, Lacrosse, for being so committed all the way from your job. Jeez Louise. Tell your boss
I got
said
nervous.
knock
It's
it
like
off.
I had
She's
to.
messing with a Mitch.
Yeah, I
Right?
got nervous because like I had to put the washing machines on, and so I'm like, oh, mute.
Oh, shoot. We didn't hear it at all. No worries.
Oh, good.
So I appreciate you being here tonight. Thanks for being committed. Thanks for calling in from work. I'm glad that they were flexible enough to have at least allowed you to do the show, and I appreciate that. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to all of our viewers. Thank you. Oops. I almost hit end. Thank you very much to Sandy, who said she enjoyed the show tonight. And I hope you have a great week too, Sandy, and you too, Eve. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here and participating as usual. We appreciate all of you. We appreciate everybody that follows, subscribes, or finds us on your favorite podcasts. We are on most podcast platforms, so you should be able to find us there, including on Apple. So look for us there. And please, friends, also subscribe to our newsletter at rainbowsoul.show. If you just go to that, you will be able to see any past episode, see all of our whole year's worth of episodes. You can listen to any one of them. You can find us on different podcasts. You can find our merchandise, and you can even watch the current show. So on rainbowsoul.show. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate your love and your support and your loyalty, and we will see you next week. Good night.
Good night.
Right.
Thank you for watching Rainbow Soul, a queer perspective on spirituality beyond religion. We appreciate you sharing the show on your timeline, follow us on social media of your choice, and join our Facebook group, Rainbow Soul. We want to hear from you. Share your topic ideas for Hollis and Lacrosse, explore upcoming shows and interesting guests. The Rainbow Soul Facebook group, where we build community of questioning seekers. Rainbow Soul, where spirituality is our medicine.
Support Rainbow Soul. Check out the Rainbow Soul merchandise for your favorite new shirt. A variety of colors and styles to suit your taste. Show off your love for Rainbow Soul. Get cool designs with your favorite quotes. Designs come in a variety of colors so that you can express your most authentic self. Support Rainbow Soul in spreading the word that queer, gender variant, intersex, transgender is sacred. Rainbow Soul, putting the soul back into queer. Order your unique Rainbow Soul merchandise at rainbowsoul.show.
Jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. So what exactly does that mean? It is a figure of speech in reference to a person who has dabbled in many things rather than gaining expertise by only focusing on one. So much knowledge and wisdom out there, at our fingertips, yet so difficult to grasp. Everything and everyone has a little piece of the truth, and it is up to us to determine what our truth is. In this busy world, creating the time, the space to nourish our bodies, mind, and soul has become a difficult task. So let's take a moment to learn something small, in whatever way the universe decides to reveal it. It could be someone's story, a quote, a spiritual practice, maybe a song or a movie. The opportunities are limitless and all around us if we just take a moment to see. We are all students of life experiences, so let us learn from one another. There is no right or wrong path. There is only your path and your journey. So let's begin our adventure and explore all the world has to offer, and let us become a master of none.
Divine Androgen, a sacred path for gender variant people. This book details Hollis' story, including some insights into their traumatic childhood, their gender experience, and how they now celebrate empowerment as a non-binary person in a binary world. Hollis details a path for gender variant people for personal empowerment, acknowledging that all paths, all queers, are sacred. There is nothing wrong with anyone that is queer identifying. This book supports any kind of transition, gender fluid people, queer folks, transgender people, anyone bending the binary. This book supports healing from our past, defining our truth, and harvesting our authenticity. This book supports the spiritual part of the journey and lands in your own expression of authenticity. A path of consciousness, not religion. This book is not religious and is in no way related to Christianity except perhaps in opposition. Choose empowerment. Choose to honor your divine androgen. Order today at www.divineandrogen.com.